Welcome back to Therapy Tea, y'all. Hey, Jasmine.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm okay. I am recording this from my office at my job. I'm back in office
Jasmine's playing hooky to record the podcast for y'all.
on my lunch. Because you're worth it.
Because you're worth it, guys. Well, if you guys are enjoying the podcast and you want us to keep doing it, please give us donations.
If you think we're worth it, which we are, you should totally give us donations.
Yeah, we are really hoping that we can pay for our Alitu subscription this year with the donations of viewers like you.
Yeah, it's a good goal. Viewers like you, listeners like you.
Jesus, yeah, you're right, listeners.
But yeah, that is a really good goal. So our fundraising goal is a couple $100. So if you could just drop it, I will mention your name as
if you want,
producer.
Shout you out.
Yeah. We have one to shout out. Who do we have to shout out?
Well, should we? We didn't say that we would shout people out. What if they want to be anonymous?
That's true.
We should check with them first.
Okay. So if you do a little note or something on the PayPal link in our show notes. So that's where it is. It's in the PayPal link in our show notes. If you want to do if you want to be an executive producer,
just shout out from us.
Yeah. Give us a thumbs up. We will shout you out. If you don't want to be mentioned at all, just say no thanks or something
anonymous.
Like that. Yeah. I mean, we want to know who you are, but it's also.
Well, PayPal is going to tell us who you are because I think there's rules for that. But we don't have to tell everybody else who you are if you don't want that. Yeah. But if you do, let us know. So if you do or you don't, let us know and we will take that under advisement. And I'll check with the people that have donated so far.
Yeah.
And find out if you guys want to be named or not, if you want to shout out, because we're so grateful to you. Unnamed folks so far, we're super grateful. And when we get your permission, we'll shout you out if that's what you want.
Consent is everything.
That is right. Informed consent. And we did not inform ahead of time, so that doesn't
We need to be ethical.
Right. That's correct. Okay, so this week, guys, we are sharing our conversation with Lori Stelzer, who's a licensed professional counselor supervisor in Texas. She has a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology from Southern Illinois University, Carbondale, and a Master of Mental Health Counseling from Capella University. Lori works at an inpatient rehab facility in Texas called The Meadows, where she is a family education therapist. But she wears so many other hats than that.
As you do in inpatient care, which is, it's what we talked about the entire time because that's what her job is. That's what she does. But I love seeing people who are clinicians, providers. I love seeing people in the field who they like inpatient work or they are, because it makes me feel less alone. Because I also like inpatient work. Now, do I like the boundarylessness of it? No. But I feel like it's just not sold appropriately.
Yeah. There's some tiny fucking tweaks.
Yeah.
That would make it so much more.
And most of them have nothing to do
accessible.
Most of them have nothing to do with the counselor or the provider.
With the work itself.
Right. The work itself is exactly what we all want to be doing. We are seeing people who are actively seeking help.
Yeah. They really need the help.
Really need the help. Unless you're working with a mandated population, they are probably in that contemplation stage. And so it's fresh with opportunity. But unfortunately, especially in Texas, I will shout them out or dog on them for just a second. Private equity just kind of ruins it. And that sucks. The patient ratios are astronomical and insane. And that's what ruins it for people. That's what burns people out. It's not the work itself. It's the demand to see patients all day, every day. But
Mm,
honestly, I mean, and I think Lori would agree with me, private practice, especially nowadays, is really not that different for a lot of counselors. And like you either accept less clients, charge more, don't take insurance, become less accessible, or you go the more accessible route and then you're in the chair for 8 to 10 hours a day. You
yeah,
are
yeah,
literally stuck there. So at the
yeah,
very least, like, I don't know. I have such a soft spot in my heart for any sort of like clinical, like inpatient work, whether
yeah,
that be in community mental health setting or like where Lori is, like a more like inpatient live-in residential style of facility. It's
mhm,
awesome. It's awesome. And it's like she talks so much about how much she's learned, and that's been my experience too. Like I learned the most when I was like, "Oh, I'm done with all my work." And then and I had an hour left in the day and I would just like do trainings and I would do all kinds, I'd read and stuff that
yeah,
I never did in private practice or, private counseling.
yeah, she definitely likes it,
Mhm.
and that's cool to talk to somebody who likes inpatient work.
Yeah.
Lovely to get that perspective.
It gets a lot of hate, and
I know. It does.
it's not that it doesn't deserve the hate, I just think that, like, I don't know, I love Lori's perspective, and I
Yeah,
love that she gives just sort of a snapshot of, like, "Here's what my job is,
yeah,
here's why I like it, here's the things that I wish are different."
yeah,
And I just don't we talk all the time about private practice being sold as the end all be all gold standard, and it just shouldn't be that way.
yeah, and I like how she really dispels the stereotype or some of the
Yes.
stereotypes about, like, what it's like to work in inpatient in a and for that to be the thing, like, she calls herself a stayer, and
Mhm.
like, I just love talking to people. That's part of what we like about doing in this podcast is talking to people that give that other perspective that is more accurate and honest, or it just is a perspective separate from the sort of stereotypes that
Yeah,
often get just fed around, you know?
yeah. Okay, excited about that. Lori is great. You guys are gonna really love this. But Karen, what did you learn this week about counseling?
Well, this week I am providing update on my fucking with my systems journey,
Oh.
and I have arrived at a landing place. I don't know that I can say that I will always be here at this particular spot because I have shifted things around many times before, and I probably will again, maybe
Yeah,
when options change. But essentially, what I've arrived at is what I would like to describe as an unbundled approach because the bundled options just do not work for me. So, the one that everybody knows about that people use to manage their practice is simple practice. Simple
all of them.
practice
Mhm.
costs so much money, and if you are not using it for everything it does, you're paying a lot of money
Uh-huh.
for a lot of stuff that you don't use. Like, for example, I think Simple Practice gives you access to like a website. Okay. I already have a
Mhm.
website. I already did that. So I don't need that. Simple Practice does like insurance billing and things like that. I don't take insurance. Don't need that. Right. So there's just a lot of features that it has that I do not want or need. And the same goes for a lot of alternatives out there. But I did kind of have to sit down and reflect with myself, like, what are the things that I want to streamline? What are the things that I do want to have a different system for? And then kind of compare. And so I kind of arrived at an option for the digital things that I wanted to upgrade. So like for example, I have really wanted to get a better system for online like paperwork, like intake paperwork to
Mhm.
clients. Like since my practice has shifted from being primarily in person based to primarily virtual, although I still do both, I
Mhm.
really needed like a hybrid option. Like I need to be able to both give my clients who are in person the option to like do their paperwork in office because some people still want to be able to do that way and then also have a virtual option that didn't require like constant concerns about HIPAA and
Yes.
conversion and like, oh, can they utilize this document properly? Do they have the ability to DocuSign and like formatting weirdness and all that kind of stuff, right? And then of course, like on top of everything is always HIPAA. So like just I had been limping along with like really bare minimum not super functional options there. And then scheduling. I know that's like the bane of your existence.
Ugh, cutting
I
out. I'm cutting out.
I mean, look, I don't mind handling all my own scheduling, but you know what was driving me nuts was like appointment reminders. Like clients constantly forgetting their appointments or me feeling like in order to prevent them from forgetting their appointments, I needed to manually remind them. And I was like, I hate
You
this.
know what's
Hate it.
another good thing about, like, working inpatient or
Oh,
community
shut up.
mental
We're
health?
talking about me now. We're talking about me now. So I wanted a system that would like do automatic appointment reminders, that kind of thing. So
Mhm.
anyway, but all of the sort of bundled kind of approaches include like credit card processing or, insurance billing and all of these things. And if you want to do some sort of different workaround, it's like just overly complicated. I'm like, okay, look, I want a couple of features, but I do not want to be constantly hounded about like insurance billing and blah 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 because I don't use those features. And
Yeah,
then I also have to compare like credit card processing fees. I use ID Pay, which by the way, I love. Everyone, you
it's
can use
great.
my code. I get like a discount and you get a discount. If you ever need an ID Pay code, you can always have it. It's an access code that gives you the new professional a month of like free fees. It gives me a month of free fees. Like it's the way to go. But they have the lowest processing fees of all of
Yes.
these systems.
Yeah. Ivy
And
Pay.
it's
If
so
someone from
straightforward.
Ivy Pay is listening, please
I
sponsor
know.
us because that
Please
would be
sponsor
sick.
us.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'd
I
talk about
use
you
your
every week.
product. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's great. It's so straightforward. It keeps me like walled off from clients' information. I don't like have to deal with anybody's credit card. I never have to worry about like, oh, what am I doing with like credit card numbers? Nope. The system handles that. They send me my tax form at the end of the year. I can like their system is simple, straightforward.
It's great.
It's great. And they pay you right on time. And their fees are the lowest. So like you could yes, do the processing system within like simple practice or sessions, which is the one I'm using now, but their processing system or I'm sorry, their processing fees are like, I don't know, 0.5% higher, like a
Oh,
lot.
at least. Yeah,
Like
at least.
I think the difference is ends up being around like 2.754% for Ivy Pay and like 3.25 is
Mhm.
what it ends up being, but it might be like 3.15 plus 40 cents a transaction or something stupid
Mhm.
like that where you're
Mhm.
like, how am I supposed to keep track of this shit, right? So that's the other reason, right? Like I don't need to have to like overcomplicate how I calculate what my fees end up being at the end of a session or at the end of the month. I like to be able to track things like how much am I actually making per clinical hour? And when I have to like do all this random complicated number stuff, it makes it so much harder. Again, not a numbers person, That's why I went into this field. I'm not a mathematician. Like
Yeah.
I do pretty well with spreadsheets, but like again, I would say that there's like a fucking ceiling to my capacity here. And I don't want to overcomplicate things. But I also was finding when I was trying out different systems that it was like the system is so most of these
Mhm.
like practice management systems are so focused on insurance as a way of working in private practice.
Really?
Like, yes, I can't find a single one that doesn't do insurance.
Hmm.
Like, I would have to completely use a system that is not designed for mental health professionals in order to get around what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like embedded in the system. And so then it'll like constantly pop up with random things. It's like, I don't need that. I don't want that.
Yeah.
So trying to then test through systems that it's like, yes, this will do what I want, but does it also do things that I don't want that now make my life more difficult? Because that was
Yeah.
something I was running through
Yeah, it's
when I
like
was testing.
I remember this in private practice. I think especially for new clinicians, this is really hard. Like, there's so many different ones now, and they all, like, kind of are the same thing, but then there are, like, differences, especially in interface. And
Mhm.
frankly, Simple Practice, if you wanna sponsor us, maybe I'll change my tune. but frankly, I have used simple practice, and I'm just not like, I think it's cool, but I'm just not
I
I
haven't been
don't know.
impressed.
I'm just not impressed. Like,
I
it's
mean,
really for how much money it
for how
is.
much it costs compared to other options, it's just not
Yes,
that much better.
it's really not. Like, it's popular,
Yeah,
but and yes, it does simplify a lot of things, but also I like what you're saying, like, what are you actually paying for? And
yeah.
then versus what are you actually intending to use?
Yeah.
Because
And I
you
think
won't
some
use
of
it all.
them like, I think Simple Practice has, like, an app too, like, option,
Sure.
which I could understand some people are like, they want that, they need that feature, but for me, I do not need more reasons to, like, always be on my phone. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
I
none of us
want
do.
some division. I want, like, work to be here and not here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So, like, I find that actually the fact that something doesn't have an app is a little like, it helps me set the boundaries that I wanna set in my life,
sure.
right? As opposed to not. So, anyway, I think I've arrived at a solution where basically I do my paperwork and my calendaring through the Sessions Health, which is what I'm using now, and it does appointment reminders automatically to clients, which I appreciate. That has been super helpful. It keeps all the documents in one place, which I think
Mhm,
is lovely instead of in kind of some documents are in paper and some documents are not and blah blah blah. So I'm going to do a completely digital anti-paper now. So even my in-person clients I'm going to be like, okay, it's all digital, you know?
mhm.
And so I think that's helpful, but it still has things that like it could do, like it could take credit cards, it could do insurance, but I don't want to do those things. I have a
Yeah,
cheaper credit card option with Ivy Pay. I like it. It's easy to use. I want to continue to use it. I'm not going to pay more just so that it's integrated, you
yeah,
know?
right, yeah,
And I don't need the insurance stuff because I'm not taking that. And I wish there were other things that I could streamline out of it. If somebody could create a practice management system that is directly for those of us who aren't planning on engaging with insurance companies for our livelihood,
or can just, like,
um,
pick and choose, like you said, that unbundled approach, like, just pick and choose what you actually want. Yeah, if
yeah,
someone wants to do that, that'd be great.
that would be great. Maybe they're like, there's not a market for that, because really it's the insurance
Boo.
companies that they're marketing towards, you
Get out
know?
of healthcare then.
I know.
If you're
I
that
should.
person, get the fuck out of healthcare.
Mm,
There's not a
mm.
market for it. Well, alright.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
talking about the person that would be creating the program. You know what I
I
mean? Somebody
know,
that
me
would be
too,
designing the program. They're
me
not
too,
in healthcare. They're in program design.
for healthcare.
They don't see it that way.
Maybe they should.
That's the problem.
Okay,
Oh,
guys. Karen,
anyway,
what a
this is my
refreshing yeah,
yeah, this is where I've landed, y'all. This is temporary, but I still support the approach. Like, don't maybe here's what the nugget that I want to sort
okay,
of impart, which is like I don't think you have to settle for simple practice or any of these things and use them the way that they want to be used. Like, create what works for you. Like, figure out what works for you and do that. And then, like, there are so many options out there. It does take some time to like find what can work for you. But ultimately, like, I think the unbundled approach enables me to practice the way that I want to practice. It enables me to value the things that I want to value,
mhm,
right? And instead of having to kind of bend to, okay, well, this is just the way the system wants me to do it, so I'll just do it that way.
yeah.
No, you don't have to do it that way.
No, you definitely don't. It is a big process, I will say.
Hmm.
It is a big process to kind of, like, think about what you need, especially when you've never done it
Yeah, yeah,
before. Like,
totally,
it's hard.
totally.
But just listen to our show, and you'll get a much better idea of what to do. I bet. Yeah. Okay.
So that's where I'm at, guys. But anyway, let's move on. Let's hear from Lori.
Yay, Lori.
Welcome back to Therapy Tea, y'all. We're very excited. This time we've got Lori Stelzer with us today. Welcome, Lori.
Hi, good morning.
Woo!
Woohoo.
Or we're in Texas. Hey, y'all.
Yeah.
That's exactly how we do it.
Lori, we're so excited to have you. Can you tell us what do you do right now?
So currently I work inpatient. We're like the cray of the cray. We always kind of make the joke that like if you know anything about nursing, we're like the ER nurses, where they don't drink coffee, they eat the grinds. Because, inpatient, you get all the things. You don't know what you're getting, but you're getting all the things. Kind of like Forrest Gump says, right? Box
Yeah,
of chocolates, we get
the whole
everything.
box.
The whole box sometimes, yeah. I mean more in one. Um so I've been there 9.5 years. I'm a stayer.
Mm,
And I work at the Meadows, Texas, and I currently run the family education program. So I've been doing that in July, it'll be 2 years. So I work
wow.
with the patient and the families, and kind of, I'm very big on not just knowing things. We all know things, right? I think that's good. But as I tell them, there's knowledge, which is just knowing the things, and then there's wisdom, which is actually doing with the things that you know, right? And that also talks about our lived experience. So we talk about their experiences, learning some new stuff, and the most important part is how do you apply that moving forward?
Yeah.
So that's kind of my big focus is making sure not just that they know things, but that they know what to do with the things that they know.
Interesting. So working in inpatient and in this role that you're in right now, like what's like a typical day look like?
Yeah.
Like what do you actually do day to day? Like do you see clients? Are you more of like a teacher, administrator? Like how does it look?
All the
Having,
things.
All
yeah,
all of
yeah. The joke is when people wear multiple hats, we just call them the unicorn. So
Mm,
it's funny that you say that because this week I've been two different therapists. And so since I've been there for so long, I can kind of fill any role. So like right now, I have an intern that I have under my wing and she kind of shadows me and follows me. So in my role, typically what that looks like is we have our morning meeting and then I start seeing families at 9 a.m. and I have them until about noon. And so the first half of our day, we just focus on like the educational kind of basically bring them up to speed with a lot of what our people already know. And I usually have them for 3 or 4 days because
hold on. Hold on. When you say you work with families, do you mean like the families of the person who is in inpatient treatment
Yep.
Is this
along with the patient
Yep.
or oh, okay. All
So
right.
my groups cap out at 4 families, right? So it can only be one family member because it's half process group and half like psychoeducation. So,
Okay.
but we kind of flip flop it from how the patients do it. They do process group in the morning and then psychoeducation in the afternoon. I flip flop that because,
Okay.
special. And so we do our psychoeducation in the morning. And so that, like, day one is like disease concept, like just make sure they understand what the heck addiction means. They all have an idea
Mm,
because this side lives with it and this side also lives with it. And I tell them that is that you're both living with it. It just looks different with your experience with it. Right.
mhm.
Because a lot of people just don't understand addiction. They think they do, but there's a lot more that goes to it than kind of a lot of what I see people as how they understand it. Right.
Yeah.
So we just talk about like the disease concept. So it's actually a medical model, right? So the
Mm,
disease, the wiring of the brain, because people who are addicts, actually, if you cut open their brains, the wiring of the brain is different than those who are non-addicts. They feel
mhm,
it differently. So why one person can stop and, we don't understand why other person's like watching everybody and counting their drinks and stuff like that.
mhm,
It's so that there's a much more different internal model.
mm,
And so that's important for them to understand the why. And also, the brain, as smart as it is, and I told you I love talking about the brain, is the interesting thing about it. It's really, if you look at its most basic functions, right? Fear and pleasure. And
mhm.
if it's bad or scary, well, it says, "Oh God, don't do that again," right? And that's why we become very aversive to things and we avoid things. And the interesting thing about that is, so fear lives in the future. It's not about what's going on now. It's about what could or might happen that has not happened yet. So we get wrapped up in that and, we future trip 'cause that's what we do. And then the pleasure part, and this is part a lot of people don't know, is pleasure is, from dopamine, right? It's the euphoria, oh my God, that was wonderful, and lights up the brain. Like, and it says, remember everything related to this, who you were with, what you were doing, what time of day, what you were wearing, all that. And so that all the brain stores that, and anything that the brain relates to pleasure, it relates to survival. If it feels good, it's got to be good and you should do it again. So it's very easy for that process to start to take a foothold. And if you're already susceptible, especially if you have a genetic component, which there's a very high component of that in
Mm.
there, it's not a guarantee, but that you are already kind of set up for that. A lot of
This
people just don't know that.
yeah, this means that the reason I can't stop eating cookies is because my brain believes that cookies are survival.
Well, sugar is one of the most addictive substances. If you look
Yeah.
at it, I think it's within the top three.
Yeah, but it's not
Um,
all sugar for me. Like,
yeah,
I could deny cakes, brownies, ice cream,
just
but
that
not
one.
cookies. Cookies,
Okay.
man. There's
Did
something
you see the study where they said that Oreos are more addictive than cocaine?
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I actually, I have heard that.
Uh-huh.
That's hilarious, and I love Oreos.
Right?
Oh my gosh.
And
Okay,
so
so it sounds like a lot of what you do is, like, there's this like you described, like, psychoeducation is a huge
mm.
part of your role, and then also doing, like, family processing therapy or individual processing therapy as well?
So I have them in a groups, like I said, up to 4, and usually I have 2 to 3 at a time, so that's 3 couples, right? And it could be parent-child, it could be
Mm,
a sibling, it's usually a family member, so usually I have either a parent-child or I usually have a couple, right? And
okay,
those are
like
my most
husband, wife,
common.
spouse,
Mhm.
okay,
And sometimes a sibling, but majority, like, 85% of the time, it's gonna be one of those 2.
okay.
Um, and, and they can't be using there's stipulations on that too. But then they come in, and so then we do our education in the morning, and, we have different things each day as to what we're gonna cover because, all right, we kinda wanna hone in on one subject. And then in the afternoon, we process it by I give them a homework assignment, which is like a 5-minute or less one. I'm saying it's a checkbox, but I want you to tell me about your experience. And so from day 1, so, day 2, 3, 4, however many days we have that week, we piggyback off that. So all the examples that they use on day 1, I'm gonna weave back into communication, boundaries, family dynamics on those other 3 days and say, "Hey, remember when you said this? Let's talk about that." And let's talk about like, well, what would you do differently now that you have this information? And so we kind of tie in their examples that they don't know that they're getting me on day 1.
Yeah. How long do you have these groups?
3 to 4 days. So they're kind of and they're intensives because by the time day 1, everyone's crashed and exhausted, emotionally exhausted. And I warn them, I'm like, "Hey, but here's a fun fact for you. The brain," and I try to tell all my patients this, is that the brain can take up to 72 hours to process emotionally heavy information. So you may not even feel it today. You'll be tired today, like you do a timeline or some big trauma dump, right? Then most likely tomorrow, you're going to be like emotionally hungover. You will be tired tomorrow.
Mm,
So just being mindful, some of those, not all the stuff you think you're going to go through is today. Actually, you're probably going to feel tired tomorrow. And usually by day 3, we kind of bounce back. But that's
interesting.
just important information most people don't know.
Yeah.
Do you work in detox or is this rehab? Because this sounds like detox.
It's rehab,
It's rehab. Okay.
but we
With
so
the
we have
short with
detox.
so much shorter, it seems
So
like.
we have a detox, and then we're residential, so RTC level inpatient, right? And then so they have 30 days. They don't see me until their 3rd or 4th week.
Okay. It's like a tiered
Oh.
system. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
I was
There's a
like,
few
yeah.
requirements. They have to
Yeah.
land first, and they have
Yes.
to detox and settle, and usually I
Yeah.
like to have them get certain homework assignments done before they see me, just so that they're
Mhm.
ready. And sometimes people even extend, right? They'll do a 5th week or a 6th week just to make sure that, some will do it for the FEP, the family education program, and others just need it.
Mm,
How do people come here? Like, how do people come to you? It's inpatient. It's a tiered system. It sounds like it's maybe about a month, maybe month and a half program. Are they generally like mandated or are they generally like they commit themselves?
Ironically, I would say about 90 to 95% of our people are not mandated.
Yeah.
Now, does it mean they don't have external motivators,
right.
right? Like,
Or some
Right.
pressure.
Right.
Yeah.
mhm.
Right.
And sometimes it's right. I'm afraid of losing my family or I'm afraid of
Yeah.
divorce. But, I work with families and then divorce is oftentimes a hollow threat that they do use because and I remind the patients is they didn't come to this conclusion overnight. This was not their first step, right?
Yeah.
They did it because think about they've tried everything that they can logically think
Yeah.
and none of it worked,
Yeah.
right? Because we're stubborn. I'm also in recovery myself, right? So I can say all this. I tell it from this side and this side.
Mhm.
But
Congratulations, by the way.
thank you. I appreciate that. And I tell them, I was like, they've tried everything they can think of. No one ultimately comes to an ultimatum because it's the first decision. We do it because it is the last thing we can think of. It's our Hail Mary, and all
Mm.
we are trying to do is motivate change. And so it's not about you. It's not about attacking you or making you feel bad or guilty. It is because this is the point we came to, and we're like, I don't
Yeah.
know what else to do, right? My hands
Yeah.
are up.
Yeah. So they're not legally mandated, but somebody in their life maybe very likely is saying like, do this or
Yeah.
else.
We get a lot of that where, like, they know that, there's oftentimes things are coming. Sometimes it's their job. Sometimes they're like,
Mhm.
"Hey, I know I'm" a lot of them find value in work and family and things like that. So one of the exercises I have them do is, like, come up with your top 10 values, right? And then what you'll notice is those lesser values, as I call them, so like 10, right? Their 10th value. If that would be something like openness, right? Suddenly we start being less open. We're less open minded. We're less open to feedback. And so we start crossing through those values. Nah, that's important. But we start doing this and doing that hand motion, right? Yeah, but, yeah, but, yeah, but.
Mhm.
And then we start getting closer to those higher values, what we call our core values, right? Once you start crossing one, two, or three, right? Once you kind of get to three, that's kind of the core of who we are, what we really value. So again, work, home, family, things like that, our integrity. That once we start crossing that, we're like, oh my God, that's not who I am. So you don't have to hit rock bottom. You can. It's fluid. It can change at any time for any person for any reason. But most people, in my experience, come when they start recognizing that they are really crossing who they hold themselves to be.
Yeah.
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 Oh, man. I used to work in detox, like, before I was a counselor, I was, like, just trying stuff out. And, like, part of my which I think we're gonna get into this in a second, part of my why of being a counselor is or, like, my counseling origin story is, like, I used to watch that show Intervention with my mom,
Oh,
and I
yeah.
used to on, like, I think it was probably something like TLC, something terrible.
Yeah.
Um, same
OG
channel.
reality
Yeah,
shows. Yeah.
same channel that has, like, MILF Manor now. They
Oh
were
my
just
God.
doing addiction. And, yeah, we're supposed to trust that. Anyway, hilarious, but I was watching it, like, through like, with my mom and, like, all those terrible shows, and I was just thinking, like I can remember thinking as a kid, I was like, that seems like such a
Fascinating.
cool job." And then like, when I moved to Austin, all I had been was a behavior tech and a waitress, and then I got in as a behavior tech, but they put me on this, like, really big campus, and they put me on the detox unit. And I was like, "No, this is not for me. I hate it here."
Oh, no.
Yeah, I got told one time that I need to just calm down on the smiling and the happy.
I've been told I got in trouble for smiling too.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
strange.
Yeah. No,
This feels
you
like
don't
the
even know you're
opposite of the
doing it.
South.
Yeah,
I know,
right?
I know. I was like, "Good morning, everyone," and because I worked the day shift,
Mm,
and they, like, pulled me into the
yeah.
office, and they were like, "Jasmine, you have got to stop with the happy in the
Yeah.
morning." For
No,
real, Karen, yes. Karen's eyes are like saucers.
First of
Yes.
all, no one has ever told me to stop smiling. I get told
Oh.
no, I'm saying I get the opposite where people are
Oh.
like, "Oh, you should,
You should
smile more.
smile
You would
more.
be so pretty." And I'm just like, "Fuck you." That kind of bullshit that's so patriarchal. I wanna stab someone with my middle finger, but, like, I have never been told to stop smiling because I don't
That's
Yes.
smile
hilarious.
ridiculous, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? But
Well,
Yeah.
apparently
yeah,
I had to
so
tell
but
someone
either
that their
way,
family
yeah.
wasn't coming, for visitation, and I guess I was smiling when I did it. And I've been told many times that I guess I smile a lot. I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
I'm there. I'm just trying
Like,
probably to
"This is
smooth
my
over the
face.
cracks.
I
Yeah.
have a friendly
Right. I'm like,
face."
"You're welcome." But no, and I guess she was mad at me, like, 2 weeks until we had, like, more rapport, and then she's like, "You know what? I hated you for, like, the first 2 weeks because of that." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah? Okay." And she's like, "We're fine now." And I was like, "Oh, okay, good. I'm
Yeah.
glad we got over that hump."
I also learned, like, how short I learned exactly how much my patience could stretch. Well, yes, simultaneously, I was learning that because I was also working in inpatient psychiatric care,
Mm,
and that was when I learned it, but I think it was, like, a preliminary, like, I learned because they are the most unhappy people alive.
I can see that.
They're very angry, and, I'm full-on behaviorist now.
Mhm.
Have, like, embrace it. I'm in the Church of Skinner. So, I'm like, I find it fascinating now, but I would never do what you do because 'cause I'm just like, "No, I can't do this."
Is it a pa do you think patience is, like, a pretty crucial sort of
You
setting
tell
to
me,
have?
Lori. You tell
Yeah,
I
what do
me.
you think, Lori?
I think honestly well, yeah, because, you're in just imagine you're in so it's a 40-acre campus, but
Ooh.
that being said, you're still in pretty close quarters. I mean, and here's the thing is that not all of them are going to like each other. Right. And
Mhm,
I
mhm,
generally don't have a problem with people liking me because I just tell them is that I don't argue with people. Like, right. I don't engage with that. And so
mhm,
I'm pretty like, but again, you learn to maneuver after, almost a decade. I've been
mm.
an inpatient like 11 and a half years.
Wow.
So over time, well, you learn a lot. But here's the thing with all therapy, right? So we kind of talked about like finding, basically yourself in that process is you find what you do and don't like,
Yeah.
right? And
Yes.
so it's okay to have patience. And like they say, silence doesn't mean you agree with someone. It just means that, I just don't want to argue with you.
Mhm.
And so sometimes I find that silence is golden. And I always find that, just being very succinct. Hey, here's what I came to say, right? It doesn't need to be fluffy. Just, here's what you need to know. And then just maneuver from that. Like, right? You don't have to feed into it. You don't have to feel attacked by it or anything like that,
Yes.
right? That
Yeah.
rational detachment. Because one of the other things too is I also teach CPI. So crisis prevention, like how do we verbally de-escalate? Because we're hands
Yeah.
off. We don't give them any booty juice. We don't shackle them or tackle them. They go off running in the woods. I'm going to say, okay, it was nice meeting you, but
Bye.
Good luck
but
with the
right,
poison ivy.
yeah. Well, we're in the backwoods of Texas. I don't think that I would say it's not a good idea, but I also, from my experience being
Yeah.
redhead, stubborn, and also an alcoholic, was I had to fail on my own terms,
Yeah.
You think
and
nothing
Think
applies to me.
that's for other people. I
That's fine.
know things. I'm smarter than that, and
They'll
so
come back. They'll
Duh.
come back when
they
they're ready for their Benadryl cream. You know what I
well,
mean?
they usually do come back after they had some time and a little distance and perspective because sometimes, oh gosh, the stories I could tell you about sometimes how people got dropped off. Sometimes it was a tuck and roll
Mm.
situation and they didn't know they were coming to treatment.
Holy
Oh
crap.
my
Obviously,
god, I used to
obviously the
hate that.
collaboration piece is very important like that. Yeah, you
Oh,
can make the decision for them, but until it is their investment, it's not going to
It ain't
make
gonna
a
work.
difference.
Yeah,
And I
it
yeah.
say,
ain't
I
gonna work.
understand where you might be, right? I get it. And like I
Yeah.
said, it doesn't mean our coping skills. Anytime we say coping skills, it doesn't mean they all mean healthy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, say it louder for the people in the back. Let's be
We talk
more
about that a lot.
yeah, let's be more accurate with our definitions of coping skills, and let's actually define what that means. Ooh, Lori,
And one of
speaking my
my
language.
favorite things to tell people, I'll say, like, well, when you come to treatment, especially if they've been to treatment before, tell me about your coping skills. What coping skills? And I love when they can listen for me, and that's great. And I'll say, okay, tell me how you use that.
Yeah, right.
That's the test right there. Because if you can't tell me how you're going to use it, it doesn't matter.
Mm.
So be specific. Because I'm going to
Oh
be
my god.
specific. I'm going to ask you questions.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah. We gotta go back, Lori.
Mhm.
I need to know more
Totally.
about, like particularly because it's so cool to talk to somebody who is, like, dedicated to the inpatient work. Like, not just like, "Oh, I tried it and I realized that that's not for me." Like, you're here
It's
and
the
you're
most
doing it.
intense level. I'll say
It
that.
is.
Yeah, but I mean, you're like you said, you're like a long timer or something. What was the
Hmm.
phrase you used?
Oh, I'm a stayer.
A stayer. Yeah. Okay. So we need to know more about like your kind of like journey into this. Like, how did you know you wanted to be a counselor
Yeah.
from the beginning? Like, what was that
That's
like?
funny because I declared my major in 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And you
and
Okay.
knew it
So,
was counseling?
I did.
Really?
wow.
I did. I
Why?
think I called it
How?
psychology before I knew, the different like I said, before I knew really the difference between psychology and counseling, but so I actually started one of my best friends had kind of a rough home life,
Hmm.
and I just loved her, and, one night after, we were talking about something that had happened, she's like, "You know what?" She's like, "You should be a counselor," and I was like, "Huh. Yeah, I could probably do that." I was like, This is what you do?" "Oh, yeah, well, I could do that. That sounds fun." Right? And then in 9th grade, I took my first psychology class, and I loved my teacher, Mrs. Sorensen. She was fantastic. And I was like, "Oh, this is, like, super easy." And it has just always been very, very natural. Like, I remember now here's the ADD part of me. I remember being in college, and my 2 of my friends, one was studying to be a lawyer, and I forget the other one I think was also a psych major too, and we were all in the same class, and I am that person who I'm a skimmer. I'm not a studier, I'm a crammer, 'cause that's what ADDers do. We need the intensity of the, "Oh, we're almost to the deadline to, like, get the
Yeah.
oomph to do it," and we'll do it,
The
and we
fear.
usually do well. Yeah, it's mhm. Yeah, it's like the little
Can't.
alarm clock.
Cannot. Cannot. My partner's like that, and I'm just like he's one of those, like, wait until the week that we move to pack, and I've been packed for, like, a month,
Now see, I
and
have the
it's
plan
so
to pack.
oh, uh-huh, yeah, he has no problems telling me what to do.
It's so true.
Awesome.
It's so true. It's funny because there's superpower to it. It's just you have to hone it.
Yeah. So you were
Take
you were
some
in
time.
college and what?
So in college, and I would just cram. I would like literally study 5 minutes before the test, and I would ace it every time. And they would get like B's and stuff like, especially the lawyer. And she was like,
Yeah.
"I hate that you can do this." She's like, "How do you get a better grade than me?" And I spent like 2 days studying, and I was like, "It's just really easy. I don't know what to tell
Mm,
you." So it always came very. I can retain information very well. And
mhm.
here's the funny thing about my superpower, and my boss will tell you the same thing because we're both ADD and we're both redheads and we're both named Lori. So it's kind of a joke.
Whoa.
Yeah, yeah. What are the odds? But there's your God wink, is she'll be like, "Do you remember this person from they were here like 4 years ago?" And I was like, "Give me an hour and I'll let you know." And so and she's like, "I don't know how you do this." I'm like, "I don't know, because I couldn't tell you what I had for breakfast yesterday,
I
but
know.
I can tell you the entire details of someone's life from, I'll be like, "Are they from here? Do they have this color hair?" Like, and all just these weird details. And she's like, "Yes." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I know. They were fine. Yeah, you can readmit them. They're fine." Um, uh, and she'll do it. She's like, "I don't know how you do it." I'm like,
It's just weird how our
just go
brain
with
works,
it."
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, just very good at storing information. So, went to college, did the psych degree, the psychology degree, because like I said, I was never told the difference between a psychology degree and a counseling degree. So, I thought I was going for counseling. And I did my whole bachelor's in psychology, which was great because it was all, like basically neuroscience.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
loved that outside of the statistics class. That's not my jam, but I did it,
Uh-huh.
passed. And then all my electives were definitely, like, counseling ones, and so I just thought, "Oh, well, this is what someone would have told me," right? And it wasn't until my master's,
One of
when I
told
was
me.
applying for my master's that they're like, "Well, why are you applying for clinical psychology?" Like, "Tell me more about what you want." And they're like, "Oh, that's the counseling route." And I'm like, "It's what?" So I did a whole bachelor's in psychology and no one told me this?
Yeah.
Okay.
You sort of
So
thought, like, a bachelor's in psychology would get
mhm.
you to counseling, like, "Oh, this
No
is a
one
counseling
ever told
degree,"
me, and I
essentially.
just assumed, "Oh, here's all the
Uh,
theories and
uh,
and all that," and you're just like, "Oh, okay, yeah, we're on the right track."
How
'Cause
so really quickly, just to pause, how did you know about counseling? Like, was it your friend who you learned about counseling, or did you have previous counseling experience?
I never been to counseling, ironically. Now,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
said, you know how families kinda have, like I call it, like, lineage? Like, wait, your family is a hip family of this. My
mhm.
mom's a
Okay,
psych
yeah.
nurse. My mom's a psych
Okay,
Mm,
nurse, so I
okay.
grew up on the psych unit. It was
mm.
3 or 4 blocks from where I went to school, so I would just walk down to the hospital after school, right? And my mom's a single mom, has been.
Children are allowed in the psych unit?
I was.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it
Sounds
was
like
the '90s, so mind you,
Yeah, it was
I
the
mean,
90s.
I was
kids
gonna
went a
say,
kids went
just
anywhere in the
remember,
90s.
so latchkey kid, right? So the funny thing is, and I talk to my families about this, I'm like, "Yeah, things are different." But, I was like, if you grew up in the '80s, like everything that you could do in the '80s is now like a CPS report. So,
That's
I
right.
mean, we kinda took everything we learned and we said, "Okay, well, take what you like, leave what you don't." And now, it's different, right? We could play in the streets as long as you didn't get hit by a car.
I know.
So
That's true.
or go to the psych unit as
Or
long
go
as
to
you
the psych
but
unit.
there were rules, right? You don't give out your home address or your phone number, and if you do go on the unit, you just look straight ahead until you get to the nursing and they all knew me. They all knew me. All the nurses knew me, and they'd be like, "Hey, honey," and I'd go sit there and eat my frozen yogurt and wait and talk to my mom, and so it was normal to me. So I guess I kinda maybe got a little desensitized early on to,
Yeah,
stuff 'cause
yeah.
there was a lot of borderlines and, of course, like, psychosis and stuff like that, but they never bothered me. They never did anything to me. I just walked straight ahead and just, that's how it
Don't make
was,
eye
and
contact.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, well, you don't bother them, they're not gonna bother you. I mean,
Yeah.
their families and visitors can come on the air. They were never violent.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I was just yeah, it was kinda normal until talk to people and you're like, "Is it?" Ah, okay.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
I love this experience because I think I love that you're sharing this because I really do think it should be normalized. Not maybe not kids on a psych unit. I don't know how safe that is, but I mean,
I think some
but
things have changed, but.
yes, but I remember just after waiting tables for years, I went and did behavior tech and I teched for a lot of different companies and or a lot of different inpatient facilities. And I just remember thinking like, oh my God, like these are just these are
People.
people.
These are
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like,
people.
these are
Yeah.
just people.
Yeah.
And it's so humanizing, and
Mhm.
it kinda pains me that I feel like that's not I don't think everybody gets that experience. Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's so easy to just, like, dehumanize,
Mhm.
and pathologize, which pathology's fine, but also let's not forget about the human element, and I think that so much of our profession just doesn't have that experience, and so maybe shies away
Yeah.
from that, and I don't know. I have a lot of complicated feelings about it, but I'm
No, I think
glad.
you're accurate. I mean, I think
Yeah.
of back to, again, being an 80s, 90s kid, right? It's at the kind of like a reading rainbow, right? The more you know, the more knowledge you have. And I think I think very valid in what you're saying is that people just don't know. They don't understand what they don't understand, right?
Sure.
And I can't fault you for not knowing what you don't know. Just as I tell my patients, it's not your fault that you don't know what you don't know. It's not your fault that you didn't get what you needed sometimes,
Right.
right?
Right.
And that maybe you didn't, I always tell them there was no class in high school for coping skills or adulting or, reparenting or any other things, right? So it's like,
Right.
it's okay that you didn't get the things. I said, but you're getting them now. And that's kind of that's where we're at now. So don't beat yourself up for that, right? You're not a bad person. And I think it's very, very important. And I even do this with my kids, distinguishing the behavior from the person. Right?
Yes. Oh my
You're
gosh,
Mhm.
not a
yes.
bad
Mhm.
person. You
Yeah.
just made a bad choice. And so I tell
Yeah.
my kids, I love you and I don't like the choice that you're making. Not but,
Yeah.
but negates anything that came before it. So and is kind of that bridge over
Yeah.
that, right? Is that so I love you and you're not making a good choice. I don't like the choice that you're making and differentiate because that prevents us. Now we can have guilt, but it prevents us from going
Mhm.
into shame. And if you
Yeah.
Right.
look at, I don't know if you've ever seen PM Melody's 8 Basic Emotions, but she said feelings aren't good or bad, right?
Right.
Even guilt and shame
Right.
and the ones that are uncomfortable, anger, the ones that kind of get a bad rep, they're not good or bad, right?
Right.
They're just trying to tell you something, right? That you're crossing about you. They remind you of your own humanity. It's just what do you do with that information? That's
Mhm.
the important part. And
Mhm.
also recognizing what it is, right? Is that some of us can't differentiate guilt from shame, right?
Right.
And we
Yeah.
talk about guilt is what you've done. Shame is, who you are. I am bad versus I've done bad. But even further than that, she talks about where you feel it in the body. So recognizing where you feel in your body, because if you can recognize what you're feeling, you have a much better roadmap of what to actually do about how to address this versus
Yeah.
this versus this. And that's important. But most people just don't have that information. So then they don't know what to do with it. And then we self medicate because we don't like the way that we feel. And our psychiatrist told me something that I really loved. He said, not every person with trauma has addiction, but every person with addiction has trauma.
Mhm.
Totally.
I'm so interested in how you shifted once you realized that
Yeah. Yeah.
counseling
Yeah.
and psychology were not the same in the way that you maybe initially thought they were. Like, how then did you get on the track towards becoming an LPC and then moving forward? Like, was there someone who finally was like, okay, actually you need to go this way versus
hmm
that way?
So I took from my bachelor's, gosh, a couple years off because I was still drinking during that
Mm,
time. So I was still figuring out until I got to my come to Jesus talk with myself. The time when I actually got sober the last time was, okay, what are you doing with your life? Like, right? How's it working out? Because I ask a lot of questions to myself too, in addition to everybody else.
Totally.
And I was like, this isn't really working for you, right? Like,
mm,
what are you willing to do different? Because that's what it is. What am I willing to do? But I was kind of like, okay, that's not working. And you can't, well, let me just say from my experience, I don't know about anybody else, but you can't get a degree, you can't get a well paying job with a bachelor's in psychology. That was not my experience.
Oh, but
And I was,
Lori, you can do so much with it.
yeah, not my experience, not in Illinois. Let me say that.
Not anywhere.
pre
Not
pre
anywhere.
Texas, because I was like, you want to pay me $12 to do what?
Right. You are
uh,
it's like we've had this conversation before. You are somehow underqualified and
mhm.
simultaneously overqualified.
Overqualified,
Yeah.
yes. And it's like a weird limbo, and you're like, "But I have the thing, I have the paper, right? What it's
Pe
expensive paper too."
people
very
let me
expensive
do
paper.
this. People let me
Yeah,
do this, and no one said
People
yeah,
let me
anything.
do
yeah. I'm like, "Really?" So, I was a little underwhelmed, and then I kinda
that.
did the, "What am I gonna do with my life?" And that lasted for probably, like, 4 years. Again,
Mm.
still drinking in that period too, so the funny thing is, so I worked at Best Buy while I was finishing my bachelor's all the way up until I finished my master's. So, I worked there for almost 7 like, I was, like, a month shy of 7 years.
That's funny.
Nice.
So I call it my Best Buy era. But at the same time is they also paid for like a third of my degree through
Ooh.
that tuition reimbursement.
What?
Right. So kids out there or anybody, adults, whoever, there are lots of places that will do tuition reimbursement if you look for them. So that was
Wow.
really, really helpful for me. The other thing that was really, really helpful for me was it was all online. My whole master's was virtual. It's
That
actually
was
based
pretty
out of
that was
Minnesota.
early.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
2010. It was
Yeah, that's pretty
2010.
early for, like, that's, like, on the cusp of the
Mhm.
online university era.
And what I liked about it is I didn't have to choose between going to school and going to work. I did
Mhm.
both because
Yeah,
at that time it was kinda you had to choose one or the other. It was very hard to be livable and doing both. Yeah, you could work part-time, but I mean, how much can you really live off that? So it
right.
allowed me the independence and doing this. And when I did the intake call, 'cause yeah, here's my roundabout rabbit to that, my rabbit hole, is that the intake person said, "Well, you're applying for clinical psych. What are you hoping to do with that?" And I was like, "Well, this, and this, And she's like, "Well, that sounds more like the counseling program." I'm like, "What now?" Like,
Is
so
that
I
not
did
what
this
I'm doing?
whole my whole bachelor's in this just for to tell me this and my master's? Of course, it's like, across this span of, 6 years or something like that. And I was
Right.
like, "Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bitter." But at the same time, I'm like, "But I'm glad that I figured it out now." And
Yeah.
I felt on the right track. And so when I did my master's, like, this is what I felt like I should have learned the entire time
Okay,
Mhm.
back
great.
then. Cool. Cool, cool.
Yeah.
So,
Did you
yeah.
know you wanted to work specifically in inpatient and addiction from the beginning? Like, how did you kind of niche into that direction?
Ironically, originally, I did not wanna work with addiction, even though I went through it myself. I was just like, I actually wanted to work with kids initially, and I did. And this is kind of, I think, that part of, like, figuring out what you like to do, especially early on if you can. But like you were saying, jazz is like, "I did this. Yep, not for me." And that's okay. And it's not because I didn't like the kids. I love kids. So my
Yeah.
internship was actually in a community mental health center, which I really, really enjoyed that experience because I got to work under a psychiatrist. So Monday
Oh,
was
that's
just with
cool.
the psychiatrist, and he worked with the kids and the teens. So I got to see the families and the questions he asked and how he came to the determination of things and the symptoms and all that. So it was good. Like, again,
Mhm.
all experience is good. Even if it's not
Yeah.
for you, it's still good. There's no
Yeah,
bad
totally.
experience.
Yeah,
And then,
even if the only lesson you take from that is that's not for me,
yes,
it's still
100%.
worthwhile
You got to
experience.
figure that out instead of saying,
Mhm.
well, what if, maybe? So, no, just try. So
Yeah.
Mondays was all psychiatrists and seeing kind of, again, the family interactions and the medication side and doing all that. And then I would work under two different play therapists, and they both had very distinct and different styles. So I would see them work with the littles and then the teens. And I really liked that. I said, yeah, this is what I think I want to do. I want to work with the
Mm,
kids. And so even through my whole master's, I was doing a lot of, like parent-child relational therapy. That was a big focus that I had in a lot of my work and my papers and stuff.
mhm.
Um, and so then but then I also got the chance. Ran a DBT group for the adolescents. I co-facilitated a parenting class for a lot of my CPS and just parents who needed help too. They weren't all CPS. And then I did a first offenders group. So anyone who was like on their first DUI or kind of first, that was more like legal type stuff, like that, helping
Yeah.
them to expunge those records. And then I worked with a psychosocial kind of helping with more like your IDD patients, like, who needed more like group homes and stuff like that.
Mm,
Life skills, right? So
yeah.
balancing a checkbook, coming up with a grocery list, all that. So I got a great array of experiences. And then I also, the first time that they kind of let me do my own thing, I worked with, we call them the sassy, right? Sassy kids. They were our high risk suicidal kids, right? So I'd
Mhm.
be in the schools and sometimes in the homes and going back and forth with them. And then at the end of my internships, I had a lot of experience. I worked with my early childhood lady. And so I loved all that. So I was like, okay, that's it. I want to work with kids. And then I worked with kids and I love the kids, but working with the parents was very difficult.
Jasmine knew it.
You
Oh,
know, I was coming to that.
yes, because
Yeah.
that's what I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
I'm right
Bless
now,
you.
I'm a
Bless you.
parent therapist. I work with kids, but I primarily work with
Work with the
parents, and I
families.
tell
Yeah.
them all the time, I'm like, "Nobody likes working with you guys." And
Y'all are the worst.
and
It
they're
just,
always like, "We know, I'm sorry." And I'm like, "I know, but just let's be better."
yeah. Yeah. Well, the hard part was, right, like the kids or, you can only do so much with the kids. And then, you said, you
Yeah.
might have an hour with them, just kind
Send
of like,
them home.
and then you send them home. And the parents that were involved, great, fantastic. Even if you weren't great at what you were doing, if you were at least trying and showing effort, fantastic. And then there was the majority, which were not that, 75 to 80%, where they were just like, you would give them charts and you would give them homework and ask them to do things and they just would not follow up. And I'm like, so if you're expecting me to fix them, that's not going to happen. And really, a lot of this came more when I did start working in residential. When I first started residential, they didn't have an adult position or they didn't have an adolescent position and an adult position. So I
Mm.
worked on a unit we had 12 adolescent females and we had 12 adult females and they were separated. They couldn't ever interact, right? So I started off as an adolescent therapist for probably the first like 6 months to a year. And I liked the teens. Yeah, they're butt heads sometime, of course. I was too. I get it. I had my moments. So I'm like, I see you. But I think being as young as I was a little bit more relatable to them.
Mm.
So that helped too. And then the hard part was after they would leave treatment because we'd have them for 90 days. The adults were
Ooh,
about
that's a long time.
the
90 days.
adults were
Wow.
about, 30 to maybe 60 on some of them, but the adolescents we could have for up to 90 days. And we oftentimes did. But here's the thing is that you send them back into the same environment that got them here. And,
And
when you start seeing repeat
behavior,
clients, yeah.
right. Behavior is environmentally dependent. I cannot stress that enough.
What's that,
Yes.
Skinner?
It is, because I experienced the exact same thing, which is why I became a parent therapist, because I was like,
Yeah.
"This sucks."
But that is such a
Somebody has to
need.
work with the environment.
Yes. I was gonna
Yes.
say it's a need.
Yeah.
And that's a very specialized. You're a very special person.
Thanks.
Yes. No, I mean, truly, like, I always appreciate anyone who could do anything that I can't do. So, that's truly a compliment.
It
I'm
was
Yeah.
not
my
saying you're
Yeah.
special, I'm saying
yeah.
you are special, like,
I'll tell you, it's my inpatient work that makes me so good at it, because that emotional
that's good.
detachment, like, that
Yes.
whole just, like, boundaries, that whole just, like, smile as you're saying, "No, we're not gonna do that at all."
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, that it's fine. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Gets you ready for it.
Fully can appreciate that. And then, once I tried it, I was like, "Okay, like this part, don't like this part," and then I had to kinda do that, and then they're like, "Well," and so then I was working with the adults, I was like, "You can make all your own decisions and I don't have to talk to somebody about this?" Like, "Okay." And I just found a little not always, but more willingness on that, and also it just felt like I was getting somewhere.
Yeah.
I wanna make a point really fast, because I think that so many people go into counseling. I knew at least a lot of people in my program or my cohort were going into counseling, and they like I have lots of training in play therapy and also child parent relationship therapy. And I mean, this is the thing, right? Like, if you wanna work with kids, you have to also wanna work with parents,
Yes.
because they are your client. And I really respect anybody who can say, "I like working with children, but not and I do not like working with parents, and so therefore this is a package deal, and so I
Mhm.
cannot accept this package."
Yeah.
Because I find my job as a parent therapist, like, trying to, like, talk to other therapists and be like, "Can you please talk to this parent, please? Like, can you
Mhm.
please just talk to them?"
And not
Well,
avoid it.
I don't know what to say, and it's like, "Okay, then you
Then
can't
get
work
out
with
of
them.
doing
You
this
can't
work.
work with
Yeah. Yeah.
them. You
This
can't work
isn't
with
for
them
you.
then."
Well,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
even goes to
Yeah.
something that I would even say is kinda like, I don't wanna say policy change, but like education, right? If you're going
Mm.
through a program where you're specifically like, if you're teaching like, developmental or a child and adolescent, stuff like that, teach them to also work with the parents too,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Oh, for
There's
And
specific
sure.
now
skills
whether
for
or not
that.
they
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
do is fine, but at least there's the option and that there's a skill set because again, I don't know what I don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right? And we're still human, we still have anxiety, and we still wanna avoid things and, that right? It's that and I completely understand that too, but I do think it is important to or maybe even have a collaboration, like, in, like, whether it's, like, a group practice or something, like, one side works with the parents and maybe while you're working with the kid,
Right, we gotta have
right?
systems in place for him no matter
Yeah.
on multiple levels, I
Yeah,
think.
otherwise it's gonna just where that recidivism is gonna be there, and then that's where and then people say, "Well, does it work?" It's like, "Well, it's not that it doesn't work, it's just the consistency." And
Right.
Yeah.
regardless and I tell mine that, I'm like, "You have to be very consistent with your behavior." I tell them, "If you're not gonna use the coping skill on a daily basis when you're doing good, you're not gonna do it when you're in crisis."
That's right.
You're just
That's
not.
great.
You're not going to call, if you're not calling your sponsor regularly, you're not going to do it when you're in like, you're, oh my God, that house is on fire.
Right,
It's just,
right.
yeah.
Yes,
So,
people like, when I worked at the jail, I would have a whole day, like, just at our whole group. I worked at, like, a teen juvenile detention, and
mm,
so, like, the whole group, I was like, this is practice your coping skills day."
yeah.
And I remember I had to, like, defend that. I had to defend coping skills Fridays. They were like, "You're just letting them play." And
Nope.
I'm like, yes, and no.
hmm
Here's why, because if they don't use these, when the hell are they gonna use these in their own
Yeah.
environment when they get back home if they have they have
Experience with
no
it.
practice? Yeah. The brain has absolutely no experience with this. It
Mm-mm.
recognizes it as unfamiliar, unsuccessful, irrelevant, and it's not gonna
hmm
do it.
Yep.
So,
We just,
it's crazy.
and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
fully support that. And like I told you guys earlier, is if you can, in my experience, to get people on board and more likely to follow through and do things, is they have to understand the why. And again, I'm the same way, right? Tell me
Values.
why. Why this way? Why that way? Why not my way?
Yeah.
And usually, if people just understand it, at least, even if they don't do it, they at least have a better understanding. So I always tell people, I want to give you the full information so you can make an informed decision. I'm
Yeah.
not Big Brother. I'm not going to be watching over you after you leave or anything. You can tell me whatever you're going to tell me. And if you choose not to do that, that is your choice. But I said, at least you have the information and you're making a choice, good or bad, right? Or somewhere in the middle. But
Yeah.
a good rule of thumb just for everyone is, I saw a recent study where it says for kids, it takes about 400 repetitions for our brain to like retain it as like, I don't want to say fact, but like utilized, information.
Mhm.
So a good rule of thumb, and this is what I use with my adults, is it's called the 2190 rule. Have you guys ever heard of that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it takes 21 days to make or break a habit, 90 days to make it a routine, but it has to be consistent. You can't be sporadic in that time period, like pick and choose. No, like if you want this to be a thing, right, then you need to consistently do it. It's kind of like a diet, right? You can't make all the changes at once and think that your brain's just going to magically stick to this whole new crazy routine, right? Pick one thing, do that consistently until it feels normal or easy, right?
Mhm.
Then you can add another thing in and keep doing that. That's why diets don't work. That's why we say, oh my God, I ate the salad. Where's my abs? Right? It didn't work. And then we just never do it again. Like it just doesn't work that way. Patience, right? We've talked about patience a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Self and others.
Okay, so how did you get into addiction?
So I got into addiction because when I was working in Illinois, right? Like, so now that I have my master's and I got this interview, like, so I graduated in May and I got this interview like almost immediately after and started like a month after that.
For
Yeah.
the rehab center?
Uh huh.
Oh, wow.
I worked in Southern Illinois, so that's also where I did my bachelor. I worked with the 6 poorest counties in
Mhm.
Southern Illinois. So again, not a lot of funding, not a lot of resources, a lot of Medicare, Medicaid, most of our clients. So resource scarcity, right? So when I was looking around, the only real jobs that were down there was you could work in the jail, which I was like, no, thank you, not interested in that. And then the only other
Which
one
I'd
that was
ended up
really
liking.
available outside of the $12 group home was
Right.
$12.
was the treatment center. And I was like, "Oh, what the heck?" I mean, maybe
I
it'll
need a
work out,
job.
maybe it
Yeah.
doesn't. Yeah, I need a job.
I
I'm
know.
experienced. I'm still kind of new with this degree, even though I had some previous experience. And I ended up just really, really loving it. And the funny thing about addicts is they will teach you a lot very quickly. Not
Mhm.
only about, obviously like substances, but yourself, because they're boundary testers and teens, adults, it doesn't matter. But also I notice a lot about like, dynamics so amongst each other, within the family, even with like staff again, and kind of like that, it's very layered in the communication, right? Because every behavior serves a purpose, right? And so otherwise we wouldn't do it. And so
Mhm.
sometimes you see the behavior, the extinction burst, and you see, where a behavior is going to get worse before it gets better. And sometimes we got to remind them, hey, this is a normal process. There's a lot of like, hey, this is normal. Yeah, you're detoxing. You're probably not acting yourself, right? You are at the bottom of the barrel right now. You are at your worst, which also means is that the only way is up. Talking about like the shame spirals, talking about how they try to get their needs met, good and bad, and you can kind of see them practicing it and which ways they utilize versus don't. And so, it was a very good teaching moment for me where I learned a lot very quickly. I learned how to not be manipulated quickly, right? Like, but first you have to be manipulated before you learn that you were manipulated. where someone once told me, they're like, she just played you like a violin. And I was like, excuse me? It was one of the patients telling me about another patient. And I was like, and she's like, oh yeah, this. And I was like, okay, all right, I see you. Thank you. But you learn. And the only way you learn is through experience. People can tell you, but you're only gonna learn so much from a book or a class but experience is the real teacher. And I very firmly believe it, good or bad, but you learn. And it's more so, as I tell people, now that you have this information, what are you going to do with that? That's up to
Mhm,
you. And
mhm.
same thing for me too, as a therapist, right?
Yeah, it's like you settled into this sort of specialization in adults and addiction, and I mean, you're a supervisor now. Like,
Hmm.
did you know you wanted to be a supervisor? And because like you're such a teacher and such an
Mhm.
like explaining is something that you're really comfortable in. So like, is that something you kind of grew into, or you knew you wanted to go that way?
I think pretty early on, once I found out it was a thing, because again, it's one of those things you're like, oh, there's someone who does that. Oh, like, 'cause, well, here's a fun story. So our director of that facility where I worked at was supervising me, right? And he was very kind of like loosely supervising me, but he was, had a heart attack and died
Oh
suddenly.
my
Oh my
gosh,
gosh!
I've never heard of that. Someone
Hmm.
supervising dying.
Yeah.
I'm not smiling.
Yeah.
I know it sounds like
I'm not personalizing it, don't worry.
I'm
Because
just
I had the same thing. I
surprised.
was like, "What?" I was like,
What do you
what do
mean
I
he's
do?"
dead?
Yes. Yeah.
Did
This
he
is
And I
my
was like
sign my
license.
final
he was
fours?
carrying in
Oh
groceries
my
and had a
god.
heart attack in his driveway and died.
Oh
And
my
we were
god.
like, 6 months in, and I was
Oh,
just like,
shoot.
Oh,
"What?
no.
Oh,
What
goddamn.
do I do about that?"
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
and no one told me. So then I was like, "Okay, like, what do I do?" And so then, like,
Yeah, what happened?
not the what vice president, let's just say that, because that's I can't remember her title. So there's vice president, and then there was a person below her. The person below her was a supervisor too. So and she's like, "Well, I can take you over," and that lasted, like, it was very, again, sporadic. So I didn't have a good experience with supervision, especially early on.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
after I got pregnant and had my son, like, as soon as I was pregnant, I told my husband, I was like, "We're not staying here."
Mm.
Because I worked in the school systems there, and I was like, Not gonna happen." And he's like, "I'll go wherever you go." And so I looked at, like, education systems, and also he's an accountant. And Plano was one of the accounting capitals of the US, in case you guys didn't know. So
Oh,
we moved to
Good
Plano
guy
for the
out.
first, like,
That's
18
didn't
months
know.
I was here. And fun fact, Texas has one of the highest levels of licensure, and my license did not reciprocate.
yeah.
So I started all my supervision hours over from
Oh,
0 when
shit.
I moved to Texas. So I
Oh, shit.
started, because I couldn't jump into that immediately. So I started, you'll love this, Jazz. I started as I worked ABA. I transferred
Ah!
down. I worked ABA for the first 6, 7 months. So I worked with my kids, like, and I worked with the youngins, like, like it started like 18 months to, probably about like 5-ish there. And then I moved up to the teens, because I had previously worked with the teens. So they moved me up to work with the teens. And so I would, individual or sometimes didactic, and just, groups and pairings and stuff like that. And I did that for 6 or 7 months. I thought it was not for me. It was too black and white for me. So, and especially counseling that's like all gray, I was like, nah, not my thing. But again, I liked it initially, but then the more I got into it, I was just like, it's just not for me. I can see how it could be helpful for some groups. I was like, but it's just that my teaching style that just did not align with that.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry. I'm still kind of stuck on the fact that you had to start the fuck over,
Me
you know?
too. I'm still reeling about
I
that.
That
was
Yeah.
is
I would
I
have just
was
insane.
bitter, but
given up.
Yeah.
but I was like, I would rather.
Gas. This
Nah.
is not
I'll
what
go
I'm
in
doing.
I'm
Like,
gonna go in
what the
sales.
fuck? I just and as we're talking through your story, Lori, like there's so many moments where you have come up against a wait, what kind of moment and then just like kept fucking going, which is so impressive, you know?
I have to say, I get that. I think I get that from my mom, because she's just kind of like the, oh, okay, well, that happened. All right, well, it's like it happened, and what are you going to do about it, right?
Yeah.
So, an
This
analogy
is
that I
one of
use
those growing up on a psych ward skills.
isn't
Hey,
it?
well,
Hey,
that
it
happened.
could be worse. I'm not on that side of the walkway, right?
For
So,
real.
I
Me and
mean,
my
maybe
partner
that
talk about
comparison is
that.
secretly there, maybe,
Yes, about how,
right?
like, it adds perspective
It,
quick.
it
Like, it's
can.
like it can, and, like and I
Mm,
think having that in, a higher levels of or lower levels of care, so, like, people who maybe an IOP or something like that or a
Hmm.
private practice,
Or
like
private practice, yeah.
yeah, having that experience has made me even more strength-based, I think,
Mhm.
because it's like, not to invalidate anything, but like, "Oh, this could be so much worse. You're doing
Yeah.
great. Like, you're doing
Yeah.
Yeah.
so good."
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
would honestly, even as like not just a supervisor, but also as a student and things like this, I tell everybody, especially if they're looking for, I see a lot of people looking for internship hours and practicums. I'm like, honestly, go to either a psych unit or inpatient. I don't care if you're going to go psych or if you're going to go, like my side, but you'll get your hours really quick. You'll get all your hours.
Yeah. Yep.
And you get to see everything, right? And
Yeah.
it's not all, a 10, as some people might think that it is. It's
Sure.
not, but it's really, really good experience. And you will get skills because you have so much more immersion with them.
Right.
And so I'm always like that. I'm like, don't, you're not going to tell you. I said, if it's not for you, you can always step down to a lower level and you will appreciate the lower levels of care like so much more. But
Mm.
again, like I said, it's not a 10 all the time. It's really, really not. Very rarely is it a 10. Like,
Yeah.
it's usually like one or two people out of like 30 or 40. And again, and you have a team that you're working with, right? And they're there 24/7. So it's not like you're never going to be there alone. That's kind of the nice thing is you get the support system built in and you get all the different levels, right? You have techs, you have nursing, you have nurse practitioners, we have psychiatrists, we have a whole therapist team that has all the different backgrounds, right? Everybody specializes in something different. We've got sex addiction therapists. We've got, 80% of our staff is in recovery and the other 20% has a family member in recovery. So we're
Mm.
going to get you from one angle or another, basically. And that's the nice thing is that you're going to be understood in it. People say, oh, it's so much easier to open up. I'm like, well, when people, don't, understand your experiences, yeah, it's easier.
I wonder if sometimes people have like, and because I know that I've been a little guilty of this, particularly early on in like grad school, like sort of assuming
Mm,
that something like working in a rehab would be very one note. And the way you're describing it, it
mm-mm.
sounds so much more diverse and robust. And like, it's not like you're really just doing the same thing day in and day out at all.
Oh,
Right? But
no.
maybe that's like a
That's
stereotype or something?
I think that just goes back to the not understanding, right?
Yeah,
The not understanding.
and
And
not
some people
having
don't.
experienced it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't wanna go to rehab. Why? Because they don't understand what it is. They think, "Oh my
Mhm.
god, I'm gone for 30 days," right? It's that they think that they're gonna be in like a prison or a psych unit, and I love it when they this is a joke we make too, is that I love when people say, "This is like jail." I'm like, "Well, clearly you've never been to jail."
Right.
Because the doors do
Right.
not lock behind you. You can go out and there's a walking trail. There's 2 walking trails. There's a swimming pool. There's a whole gym up the hill,
Ah,
right?
oh my
You
god.
can we take you fishing, right? We take you
Ah!
fishing. There's yoga. You can do tai chi. We do acupuncture, right? There's a brain
Ooh,
spa, which has like zero gravity chairs that have heat and vibrate, and then they have that noise canceling headphones with binaural beats, and you
that
just
is
chill out. I call it the adult
awesome.
calm down room. We have a sensory room for if you're overstimulated, like right? And then you get basically therapy on top of that. You get group therapy and then you get individual therapy. And then most people will say,
That's
I've
amazing.
made some really good friends here. So I always remind
Makes
people
me
like
wanna go to rehab,
I
like, right
know,
now.
I
I
Like,
know.
did
you're
I
really
joke
selling
sometimes where
it.
I'm like, I could check in. I was like, you get the friends and family discount, right? Like I'm like, I was like, I would talk to you guys because really it's very conversational. But here's a lot of what we see, right? I would say about 80% of our population, of course, substance abuse primary for us, Meadows, Maine, out in Arizona, is trauma primary,
Mm,
substance abuse or addiction secondary. So we're substance abuse primary, but trauma secondary. So 80% of our population has anxiety and depression. So really, it doesn't mean, I mean, of course, we get, bipolar and we get borderline and, there's always going to be a spatter. We have a first responders program. We have a military program.
mm.
So we're going to get anything from all walks of life. I have everything from, I've had CEOs, I've had 2 Wall Street bankers. I get a lot of, like first responders, everything from EMT, firefighter, police officer, you name it, all the way down to people who are homeless and for various reasons. And sometimes it's been, for a month and they're couch surfing versus sometimes they've been living under a bridge. And it just varies. But some people think that that's like where that they think that it's inability to just have willpower. And that's, like I said, it's a disease of the
Right.
wiring of the brain. You
Right.
have
Yeah.
to recognize that a lot of these people are very functioning. They're going to work. And I always love to remind them that just because we call ourselves a functional alcoholic or addict doesn't make it true. I will, the thing that I remind them, and I tell the families this too, if you went to your doctor and he's about to cut you open. And he said, I think I'm functional today. How do you feel about that? You're gonna let him work on you because he's functional? He says he's functional, or your mechanic, right? Does that work in any other category other than when you say it? I'm like, it
Yeah.
doesn't. So sometimes we have to like step back. And I also tell them I find humor to be very effective with people
You
because
have to.
you have
Yeah.
to, especially in our field. You have to. It's survival skill. And I
Yes.
say,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
will be more ridiculous than you
Yeah.
because
Yes.
sometimes I have to show you how ridiculous your thinking is.
Yeah.
My favorite one is if people say, well, I'm just a piece of shit. I'm like, okay, like, let's pause. Hold out your arm. Now touch it. Is it brown and sticky? Oh, it's not? Okay, so you're not literally a piece of shit. Let's start there, and we're gonna work backwards. And they're always kinda looking at me like shocked, like, "You what?" And I'm like, "Okay, well, I clearly have to backtrack you from where
Start
you
all
are,
the way. Yeah.
and, like, if that's where we're gonna start then. And so let's work backwards." And so but again, sometimes you need that reminder that just shakes you because, to you, it's fact. It must be true, right? And
Mhm.
so we have to shake up that belief system 'cause, right, we have
Yeah.
lots of thoughts. Not
Yeah.
all good.
They just keep coming.
Mhm.
Just keep coming. Okay. What do you wish you had known before you got into what you do now?
Well, I wish there was more direction, right? Like you said,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
very much like the teaching part because I feel like I'm that lifelong learner. I would be a lifelong student if I could. I'm actually even looking at being an adjunct professor, like one or two classes just kind of on the side because I think that there's a lot that could really be inserted in the bachelor's level, the master's level. I mean, here's a question that I still get and people who have already gone through their programs or have already signed up for their programs. And they'll say, well, what's the difference between an LPC and a LCSW? Right?
Yeah.
What's social work versus counseling? And I'm like, well, depends on your goal. Like
Yeah.
it's going to be a very slight difference in focus. And for me, the way I describe it is I'm like, for social work, it's more about kind of connecting to resources and where's their right? Is it that are they able to meet their own needs and oftentimes this way, that way, right? Do they lack resources, for example, that would help improve their situation mentally, emotionally, physically, all that? And so it's kind of like connecting and scarcity and things like that, right? That's how I in my head make it up to be. And then in counseling is more that theoretical framework, like so having a theoretical framework like CBT. I rotate a lot between CBT, DBT, and ACT, right? So
Right.
acceptance and commitment therapy. And of course, I throw in motivational interviewing, and I'm very solution focused. I tell my people, if you're going to bring me a problem, be prepared to bring me a solution. And I don't even care if it's a solution we go with. I just want you to get in the habit of being solution focused, right?
Yeah.
Is that and having that on the table. But I think a lot of times, right, we learn about these theories, but there's not a lot of how to apply that, right? Yeah, you can do some case studies and how would you use these skills and stuff like that. Because I think there is a lack of direction. Like I said, finding your
All the
specialty.
stages. Mm.
Yeah, no one tells you about that. I mean, we're so just get to get to your licensure in the beginning, right? And
Yes.
sometimes, and even converse to that, what I find is a lot of people think that they have to specialize immediately. And I'm like, that's also not true. I said, I
Yeah.
just want you to think about what you like, what you don't like, right? And that could be theory. And that could be if you like a population, well, what do you think that you want to try? What do you think you want to go into? Because, like I said, there's just a lot of misconception around what we should know and what we shouldn't know, and that we should have it all figured out before we're licensed.
Yeah.
That's not true. And I would even say that would be great if they did a class on how to start a business. What does it look like to be a business owner, right? And I don't care if it's private practice or going into group. Like I have a lot of people say, I'm in a therapist group, and I see a lot of people asking, like, well, in group practice, is this a fair split, right? What's W-2 versus 1099? Like, there should be a class on that so people understand, so they're not putting themselves in a bad position.
Yeah.
And in that way, group practice owners, right? Because they're equally frustrated because these people are kind of like, is this, is
Yeah.
that fit for
Or they
me?
quit and they've got a lot of turnover and,
Yeah.
that's
And
not
then,
that's
and
not good
that's
for either
equally
side.
exactly. And so it's that ripple effect, right?
Yeah.
On both sides. And it can leave both sides unhappy and also not in a good position because it's just not, there's just not a lot of understanding, right? One
Yeah.
side feels or is concerned about like am I getting ripped off? Because, they might say, hey, I'm giving you 40% of my money. Instead of saying, well, that's not including overhead and the insurance. And what if the insurance doesn't pay or your client doesn't show up and scheduling and all the things that you're not paying for?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
sometimes just getting a good understanding and that's what group practice looks like, right? And
Yeah.
here's what to expect from that. Here's what I expect to look like from private practice or the things you need to do for a virtual, right? You don't have to but to give them an understanding of what, like I said, the levels of care that there are, what each one entails. So again, you can make an informed decision on what you think you want,
Yeah.
right? And you may not know until you try it looking
So
at
much
this.
that you're describing that Jasmine and I talk about a lot, which is there's so many holes in
Hmm.
our and gaps in kind of the way that we're educated that could be filled differently. Like the things
Yeah.
that you've listed off that Jasmine and I for sure agree about and have talked about so many times with so many other people, like the lack of like distinction and differentiation and understanding of different licenses, different
Hmm.
I mean, to me, it sort of ends up being like different flavors.
Yeah.
And yet, like, how do you know which direction you want to go? Because you don't know what the flavor is until you've
Hmm.
sort of, like, already got the package, right? Like, you've already started down this path, and then you kinda need to keep going because there's real money involved.
Hmm.
Um, but you didn't necessarily know which one you were signing on for because you didn't understand the differences, and nobody really does a great job at articulating the differences. And then layer on, like, the situation that you had, which is, like, kind of the different licenses in different states, right? So,
Hmm.
one thing to have, like, LPC, LMFT, LCSW here in Texas, but then
Yeah.
there's similar differences in every single state, and it's so confusing, not just for the general public, but particularly for people that want to work in this field. And so there's a real gap in our education at the bachelor's level, I think is where this would belong more, and or even in the high school level,
Yeah.
like which pathway do you want to start
Hmm.
going down? And then the stuff you're talking about around how to identify what you want to specialize in or niche in,
Hmm.
because this comes back to like whether or not you want to work kind of an agency, inpatient, whatever, or even in private practice. And like, how do you figure that out? And I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of people get out of their grad program with no sense of like, okay, what do I do to get to the place where I have a niche or a specialization? Because you cannot know everything. Like, nobody can know everything. But like, do you just fucking stumble around until you get there? Like,
Mhm.
is that the real answer? Because that's super expensive, y'all,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not really an option for everybody who's not like privileged
Right.
in certain ways. Like, there's no way that you could do that, the legit stumbling around, like, you need insurance, whatever the case is. I mean, I would love to sort of get your take on, like, what would you suggest to maybe young professionals about, like, that thing in particular? Like, what are some steps? What are some things you can do that aren't, like, gonna cost you an arm and a leg maybe, to figure out, like, what is your niche? What is your specialization? What could it be?
Hmm.
Where do you start with that?
What I find to be helpful, and I kinda a little bit started this, like, again, when I was working inpatient originally, and I even tell so my intern I have now, I took her to one of our networking events,
Mm,
where I was presenting it. I said, "Just come and see what you think about it," right? It's a place to meet people, it's free, you just show up. So networking events, that way you can kinda see the different people who show up, what they do,
yeah,
talk to them,
hear
right?
about them.
And you're doing a lunch and learn or something like that where you're kinda learning and kinda seeing, and you can kinda see what kind of things are out there, right? Now, even something even for and this is even from the patient side that I see too, is there's a lot of like you said, there is a lot of trainings and they're expensive, and you may not know what all those are. I just like 2 weeks ago, when I was covering a lecture for someone, I said, "You know what? I'm just gonna throw this out here and just tell me if you guys, if you like this or not, because right, is we're just gonna experiment with this." I said, "You guys are my guinea pigs." I said, I took the whiteboard, a big whiteboard, and I just wrote all the different like acronyms. So here's what an LPC is. Here's what an LCSW. Here's what CBT means. Here's what DBT means. Here's what EMDR stands for. Here's what
Mm,
somatic means. And I wrote everything out. I said, how many of you guys have tried to find a therapist and you're looking at all this and you don't understand what all those letters mean?
yeah,
And so then therefore you get because a lot of them because that's one of the things we do is we try to set them up with aftercare before they leave, right? And 95% of the time we get that accomplished. It just depends on willingness, but a lot of them just don't understand those letters, right?
fair.
And psychology today and places like that don't always give a chance to elaborate on that. And sometimes we don't. Even some of the times
Yes.
we don't know what I'm like, oh, let me look that up. But right? Like someone doesn't know what somatic means unless
I don't
you're
know what
in
all
the
I mean,
field.
shit keeps getting invented, y'all. So, like,
I
Yes.
there's
know.
new acronyms every year.
Yeah. Well, now
So,
you have
like, spell that
EMDR, you
out.
have art, you have brain spotting, and they're all kind of similar or
Yeah,
adjacent and, but
yeah,
and, so if you're not in it, I was, like, looking it up the other day, I'm like, "How would I compare these 3
yeah,
and how do they differentiate?" Just because I'm like, I want to know, right? I'm
yeah.
EMDR trained, but my friend just did brain spotting, and I was just like, "Oh,
Mm,
like, let's come," and I'm interested in, like, art, and I'm like, "How does this all kind of, like, differentiate? Like, how would I know which one was for me?"
yeah.
Because again, they're at least a grand each. But to get
Oh,
back
at
to your
least.
question, another good thing, like I said, so you can do
Yeah.
networking. I always tell people if you can, so that's obviously usually a free one, which is great. On Facebook, find therapists or even like student mental health counseling groups. That's where I get a lot of my information. They're telling you who's hiring. You can find supervisors on there. You can see what's going on. You can find referrals. You can find practicums and all sorts of things like that. If you're looking for something or bouncing an idea off, if you're unsure, put it on there. It's a great sounding board for people who all different levels and
Mm,
fields and stuff like that ask to shadow someone or to interview them. I know a couple people
mm,
interviewed me when they were in their master's. It's just part of their program, which I love. See if you can shadow them for a day. I suggested my intern, she's a bachelor's level intern, and she starts her master's in, I think, December, no, January of next year. So she's still bachelor's level intern. And I said, why don't you? I said, she wants to work in a hospital. I'm like, well, why don't you go contact a hospital and see, tell them who you are and just see if they would let you shadow someone for a day, a week,
mm.
anything like that. So
I
you can
remember
see.
yeah, I
Yeah.
remember us Jasmine and I both did career counseling in our
Uh huh.
internship level, like practicum stuff, and I remember that being something that we would talk to people
Mm-hmm.
about, like interviewing other professionals that are in the field that maybe you're considering. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you think you want to be a nurse? Like, okay, well, how about you go talk to a nurse? And
Yeah.
maybe talk to nurses in different
Yes.
specialties, right?
That's key.
And compare and contrast and see, like,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a lot of work to become a nurse, and
It
maybe you
is. And you
think
want to
it's
make
right for
sure that
you,
it
but maybe
fits
it's
what you
not.
want.
Like,
Yeah.
that's such a great tip that we maybe underemphasize, like,
Mm-hmm.
the value in just literally call somebody who does
What you
something,
want.
especially what you think you want,
Yeah. Yeah.
and ask them
Right.
some questions. Like, I would be open to doing that if somebody called like, a young
Mm-hmm.
professional called them and
Same.
said, "Hey, what's it like to work in private practice?" Sure, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
no problem. That's
Yeah,
such
because
an
we've all been
underutilized
there.
strategy.
Yeah. And that's why I tell people, I'm like, get on those, like, again, the Facebook groups. I
Yeah.
have several that I'm on, right? There's North Texas.
Mhm.
There's different ones. I mean, you can get for there's even specialty ones. There's ones just for associates, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And so just get on there and that's where people will say, get on. And I say a lot of people say, hey, I'm looking for practicum. I'm looking for, right? I says, I never see anyone say, hey, can I shadow? I mean, it
I
couldn't
know.
hurt, right? I mean, worst thing they can say is no, and then you keep
Exactly.
moving on. But the other cool thing I think is often underutilized is, yeah, check out the networking events. There's a cool one in Plano. It's like a walk and talk, right? So they basically go, all the therapists go on like a Friday morning and they go and they walk around. It's a nature trail.
That's
They go
so
and they walk
cool. That's a
together.
cool idea.
Yeah, right? I was like,
Aw.
I wish I had time for if it wasn't 45 minutes away, I would totally do it. But I love the concept of it. And then there's
Yeah.
like coffee meetups, and then there's like, like a lunch and learn, and and they'll pair with people where like this one will come in and pay for the lunch, and this person comes in and does that, like, right? Like I just did that in like February, I think. So, and I try to do a lot of those as much as I can because it's good for me. It's that connection where I want to learn, and I think that's key. But the other one that I also have found is if you look for like symposiums, conferences, things like that, it is not uncommon for them to have a student discount, and sometimes they're free.
Yeah. Use that student discount,
For
y'all. Like,
real.
Please, I
it
paid for
goes
I got my
way more.
EMDR training when I was still a student or
What a
an
steal.
What a
associate,
steal.
and it was several $100s cheaper.
Yes.
Get it,
100%.
do it. And then, so a good one is, so now this is coming up in October. So all the people out there, if you've got associates or if you are associate or just interested, last year, the last couple of years I usually present at the Zorro Symposium in Oklahoma. It's in Tulsa. Last year it was all virtual, but they had it to where if you were a student, you could attend it for free.
Mm.
That's
And it's a
awesome.
2-day virtual, and you get the CEUs for doing it too. So you can go to just one day, you can go to both days, and you get all the CEUs if you attend it as like a therapist, right? And you pay for it. And then if you were a student, it was free to attend. Now you don't get CEUs, but you get to attend. And so I gave it to one of my friends, a coworker, who is still in his master's. And I said, hey, check it out. And he's like, thank you so much. He's like, I've learned so much
Yeah.
because you're going to see, I mean, it's police officers, it's mental health and therapists, it's some of it's administrators, some of it's lawyers, like, right? And you're going to get such a diverse, and you get to pick which ones you want to. You go to a
Mhm.
conference and there's usually, three, four people speaking at any given time. So you
Yeah.
can say, is this more my thing? Or is this? And it gives you a chance to see what that field looks like or that
Yeah.
thing would look like. So you
The
get a more,
exposure to it, right? Like,
yes. And then ask questions.
yeah. You mentioned this before, like, you don't know what you don't know. And so
Hmm.
you kind of have to put yourself in these environments where you can be exposed to
Yeah.
stuff that you didn't even know was a job option, right? Like, you're like, oh,
Yes.
I didn't know that was a thing you could do.
Yeah.
Oh,
We're like, oh, I understand that more now. Think of
yeah.
it all as like a career fair.
Yeah.
Because that's what
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff out there, especially now that the weather's nicer. Go to all those different things, right? And
And just
there's a
see
lot
what
of,
sort of gets your juices flowing, I
yeah,
guess, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
just to see, just to know.
I found for me too, and because you talked a little bit about this earlier, like the sort of strengths based approach, like
Hmm.
I remember for me when I was trying to like define my niche, because I'm in private practice. And so I kept hearing people say, like, okay, if you're gonna be in private practice, you need to have a niche so you can market yourself, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, so how do I do that? Why
Mm-hmm.
would I do that? Like, what's the methodology there? And one of the approaches that I thought was really useful for me was to really self-reflect and evaluate my own strengths. Like, what do
Right.
I think my strengths are, whether that's skills or just like innate personality traits
Mm,
or whatever, because like this makes me think about like when it comes to the certain strengths that you have and whether or not they align with a certain work environment or a
mm-hmm.
certain type of work. Like I think some people, like what we were talking about with parents, like and
Yeah.
kids, like, okay, if you don't have the strengths or the skills and you don't really want them to
Mm-hmm.
to tell a parent to their face that they're fucking their kid up, then, like, maybe this isn't the niche for you, right?
Checkmate. Yes.
Yeah. So, to me, there was a process of, like, there's this exposure, you gotta, like you don't know what you don't know, you need to kind of, like,
Mm-hmm.
get out there and figure out, like, what are all the options available to you, but then there's this, like you really have to self-reflect, is this fit you in a way that isn't gonna burn you out, that is
Yes.
authentic, right? Like, that aligns with your strengths, again, as a human, just as a person, and then also, like, the skills you have. I mean, skills you can gain, right? Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that's the nature of skills, but, like, maybe this is just not you. It doesn't
Yeah.
fit you and your innate strengths, and some niches require certain strengths and qualities versus others, you know?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Well, think
maybe
of like
that's a part of it?
family therapy or couples therapy, right? I saw some lady on the Facebook group who said she worked with high conflict couples, and I was
Mhm.
just like, okay, that is a niche. Like there, for
Yeah,
not a lot of people are like they don't really want that, but there's a huge need for it too. And like that,
yeah.
is that you have to have a very distinct skill set to be effective in that, right? You
Yes.
have to have the good boundaries and the communication and almost a strong personality to manage strong personalities. And sometimes you can develop that. As a just because you're not there yet doesn't mean you can't be.
True.
That we have to also look at that as at the
If
right.
it's really something you wanna do and you're, like, super passionate about it, then, like, knowing that maybe I need to gain that strength
Yeah,
or
and it's
build
not
that.
bad. It's not a poor
Mhm.
reflection on you. It is literally just saying, "Okay, maybe that's something I need to look at." And
Yeah.
again, but also with that, even if it's on the list, is that a priority now? Is that a need that has to be met now? Because it doesn't mean it can't be on the list, but is that a now problem or is that something that I know I'm working on and that maybe I'm still exploring that?
Mhm.
Amazing. Oh, Lori, what are some resources for maybe new people in the field? Like, what's a resource that was really helpful for you as a mental health professional?
Um, gosh, there's a lot. Like I said, I would really if they had it back when I was like, we'll just say young in the field, I guess you could say, that I really, really enjoy that Facebook group that I'm on. Like I said, I think it's really helpful for a lot of things. If I have a question, if I'm looking for a referral for something,
Mhm.
I think it's just a really good way because you get so many walks of life and experiences and that. That was really, really good. And like I said, kind of the networking and the conferences, those were things where I really feel like I kind of built myself from because I just got a lot of, again, I got information that I could sift through and just kind of feel like I could develop myself based off the interest that I had in those things. So sometimes I don't, so I had thoughts on what I might and might not be interested in. And then I heard it and I'd be like, oh, that's, I like that. Or
Mhm.
some I'm like, oh man, maybe not so much. But like I said, as much hands-on experience as you have, because textbooks and stuff are great. YouTube is great too. I can find a lot of great videos on there. Like the neuroscience ones, I click
Mm.
one like and it'll talk about like, like interesting facts. Like I'm very big on I love to teach my people about like using your five senses because no matter what, may not always have maybe someone doesn't answer the phone, maybe someone's not around you, maybe it's just you. And how do you survive the moment, right? Or yourself, which is probably more likely.
Do you have, like, a couple of videos that you can name that are like, "Yes, I'm always using these with clients or with
I can
family?"
give you books.
Okay,
I
books.
can give
What do
you
you got?
books. So
Yeah.
I made a whole book list because people kept asking me for it. So
Not the whole list,
no,
Lori.
Give
Give me a
you
smattering.
like 3 to 4. So
Okay.
if you want for addiction,
Yeah.
Dr. Melemis, so it's Stephen with a V,
Uh-huh.
Melemis. It's called I Wanna Change My Life. So he
Okay.
has YouTube videos,
Oh,
and
okay.
they're like 6 minutes or less. So, my ADD brain is like, "Thank you."
Yes.
But my favorite one that I use with my families is his Addiction in the Brain. It's about
Okay.
6.5 minutes, and it tells you kind of the 3 rules of, like, addiction that, if you can't change the color of your eyes, you can't go back to drinking. You're just not, right? And so very simple rules and reminders, and he talks about how the brain is different in that 6-minute, very succinct, and I love him. The book is the same way. If you're
Cool.
ADD, it's all about anxiety, depression, addiction. Fantastic. Simple, straightforward,
Nice.
and solution focused. My other
Okay.
favorite book that I love is Dr. Jerry Lerner, Lerner.
Mhm.
It's called Unraveled to Unrivaled,
Okay.
all about building resiliency, the 4 dimensions, biological, emotional, mental, and then interconnectedness.
Mm.
And he gives you like exercises and like do this. And so he's very specific. So again, solution oriented. Love it because that's what my brain needs. Don't tell me the problem. Tell me what to do with the problem.
Yeah.
If there's trauma and you kind of find yourself regressing a lot. I read this book thinking I was reading about other people. And as I was reading it, I said, oh my God, this is personal. Like, how dare you? I'm offended. But it's called Growing Yourself Back Up. And it's very small, very thin, very quick read because I have a type and it's fantastic. And it talks about how we regress, why we regress, it's unconscious, and also what to do about those things. So, especially if
Nice.
there's a history of trauma, especially childhood, it's a fantastic, easy read, easy to apply.
I love an
And then
easy
my
read.
and then
Helps
my
with my book
other
count.
oh yeah, and again, I wouldn't tell you anything that I have not personally found super beneficial. Of
Yeah.
course, anything Brene
Nice.
Brown, but my favorite Brene Brown is Daring Greatly.
Okay.
Shame and guilt, right? We struggle with that. And then my last one is anything by Alan Berger. And I can't remember if it's Allan or Allen, but his last name is Berger. He's a Hazelden guy, like 40 years of recovery. And all his books are very small. And like I said, I always tell everybody, I have a type and we joke about it. I hold them up and show him. He's got 3 books. 12 Smart Things to Do After the Booze and Drugs Are Gone is my favorite. Because
Okay.
now that you're sober, what the hell do you do with the rest of this? Right?
Yeah.
Because no one tells you about emotional sobriety. How do you not let others edit your reality? How do you not take things personally? How do you not use the
Yeah.
steps to try to be perfect? Right? He talks about all those things, and you're like, oh, mm,
That's cool.
stop talking about me. So he's got 3 books. So that's my favorite. He also has 12 stupid things that mess up recovery, and then 12 more stupid things. And he's
Okay.
and each chapter is just about that thing, but
He
he
got to the
very
end of the first
eh,
list and he was like, "No, I could do a whole 'nother book on
yeah, I
this."
have more, and I was just like, but they're all good, like, and all my
It's so
patients
funny.
are like, "That was a lot," like, and just like one chapter, they're like, it's like 5 to 7 pages, and they're like, I felt like I just had like a whole lesson," and I'm like, "Yeah, he's good." So
Nice.
those are really good kind of across the board
Awesome.
for whatever you're trying to work on. Self-improvement is always a
Yeah.
need.
Nailed it. Nailed
Yeah.
it with
Yeah.
this list, girl.
What
Okay.
about a human resource? And this is just one.
Mm.
Everyone in the world should read this or watch this or do this. We've had like
Yeah.
an
Not
exercise
necessarily
class.
counseling related, like
No,
just
Okay.
no,
person.
just a human. It'll make you better.
Hmm. Are you
Mhm.
guys familiar with binaural beats?
Oh,
Yes.
I'm not. Tell me about
Yes.
it.
You want to tell about it,
It's
Jazz?
No, I want
no,
you to
I
tell
want
Oh,
me.
you
you
want
to
me to
tell
tell?
about it. Yeah,
Okay.
you're
What is
much
it?
better. I don't have ADHD, and this is, like,
Binaural?
particularly good for people with ADHD, but yes,
Say it
I
again?
do listen to it.
It's good for everybody, but yes,
What
our
is
For
whole
it?
family
real.
is ADHD, so that doesn't hurt either. So binaural beats, so it's most effective if you listen to it with headphones, earbuds, right? Because by two frequencies, so
Okay.
binaural beats, so naural is ear. So it's basically you're getting two different frequencies now, low frequencies. It's more of like a melody, a rhythm, kind of like almost like background noise, right? There's no words or lyrics. It's kind of just like a very melodic sound. So kind of
Okay.
like, how like white noise regulates us and we really like it and our body's like, oh, it does the same thing for us.
Okay.
You can go on
I hate
YouTube.
white noise. So what is this
It's
No,
then?
not
this
it's
is
not
good.
staticky
It's
like
not
that.
sad.
Most people like this. So if anyone's ever done anything like neurofeedback or something similar to
Mm,
that, it mimics that. So you have four brain waves in your brain and they all access something different, like, sleep, calm down, activation versus not, right? So they all have different
mm,
purposes. So
okay.
depending on what you want, you pick that binaural beat. So I just simply go on YouTube and I type in binaural beats, and you can do it for the majority of them are for sleep. So I
Okay.
pick binaural beats, sleep, and rain because rain puts me to sleep. That's my white noise. Can't do waves for whatever reason. I have to do rain. And so that's what I listen to. And the funny thing is, my husband's like, he has his own, which is different from mine. But he's like, "You also have to have yours because I need both to sleep." And I'm just like, "Okay, like, that's fine, but
He needs
whatever."
the
He
combo.
needs the
That
combination.
just feels
Yeah.
so loving to
I
me.
know. I'm just like, so and also, like, he's like, "But I also need you to
So
sleep next to me.
sweet.
I just need to know that you're there. I don't have to touch you. I just need to know that you're there." And I'm
That's
like,
so
"Okay,
cute.
whatever." So, but I do it for my kids too. I put it on their iPads. So we use it on our
Mhm.
phones. I just put it on YouTube. Binaural beats rain for me. And then I just flip it over. I keep it plugged in. I just flip it over so I don't see the light because I
It's like
I need
in
a
the
cave.
background.
Yes, very background noise
Ugh.
because for me with my ADHD, and this is also true, autism has its own version of it, and then AUHD has its own version of this,
Okay.
is one wants silence or not too much. One has to have a
Mm,
specific noise, but not that noise, but this one's fine. And
mm,
then typically with ADHD, we do best when there is kind of some background noise. If it's too quiet, I will literally focus on anything other than. So I need
mm.
a TV or music or something just going on in the background. So binaural beats also helps. So you can go on YouTube, binaural beats, whatever you want. Focus. You could do anger releases.
So there's different flavors of this.
There's different flavors
Cool.
and there's different lengths. So
Oh,
pro
okay.
tip, I tell all my
Yeah.
patients is if you're going to use it for sleep, make sure it's at least 8 hours long. Because if you're playing it and it's one of those long ones, right? It won't play commercials. If you
Oh,
don't, someone's going to talk to you in the middle of the night and it's not very fun.
yeah.
I have a fear of people breaking into my house, and it was not a very fun experience for me. Yeah, so, yeah, middle of the night, someone talking to you, and I was just like, "What? Who's there?" So, that was
So
my
it needs to be,
experience,
like, at least 8 hours for
I
genuine
would
sleep.
suggest it, and some are even, like, up to 48 hours, so,
Oh,
like, you're
shoot.
good, yeah, so, there's
Wow.
a bunch, and you
Okay.
can get brown noise, you can get all those things, but so I put it on my kids' iPads and I just flip it over. We put it on our phones, flipped over. You can use it for there's anger release. There's ones for depression. There's ones for anxiety. There's ones for focus and concentration. But the majority of them are for sleep. And you
Fascinating.
can pick and there's even different ones, right? It's not like it's just one set type. You can get, like I said, you can get rain and white noise and brown noise and there's like white, brown, pink noise, all that added into. I know, why all the noise? But I feel like for me, it helps me just sleep deeper and longer, like less interruptions. So it
Yeah.
just kinda it's like if I can do something without doing any extra work, and it just kind of get and I'll do it when I'm doing
Yeah.
trauma work, I'll play it in the background because again, it's kinda just more like background noise than it is like it's not quite like listening to music. We have it in our brain spa at work, and then it just can be used in a lot of different ways.
I love a
Nice.
good twofer, so
Yeah,
this is a win.
yeah.
What about a plug, Lori? Like, what do you wanna plug? What do you wanna, like, get the word out about to our 5 listeners?
I feel like I'm terrible at, like, self-promotion. Like, I'll show up, I'll talk to everybody all day long, but I just says it that right? It's a if people need help, I think a lot of times, like, when we look at, like, statistics with addiction specifically for, us and or I'll say my lane, is that you look at statistics and they'll say, like, 1 in 9 people, and I'm like, "Those are the ones you know about." there's a lot of closet alcoholics. They're actually and addicts. Is they're saying it's more likely like 1 in 5. But
Mm,
like I said, a lot of us are functional, and just because we haven't, right, just because we're not on the radar doesn't mean that it's not there. And I think just having more of those conversations, and right, and I think the more people understand what treatment actually is, and that's why I don't call it rehab, I call it treatment because, right, is that negative connotation means that basically, like, like you're doing an overhaul on yourself, but in a positive way, right? So
yeah.
if you have a feeling, having that honest conversation and just laying it out there, like I said, I can't make you do it, but I support you. And sometimes this is how I can support you. So if people need help, like I said, that's what I do. I work with the families. It's not family therapy. It's more, well, the question I ask is, could it be better? And usually the answer is yes. And if it could be better, how can it be better? And that's what we're working on, is like that, right? Is that no one's going to get beat up or berated like they sometimes fear that they're going to be. It's more that, like, that I want to make you sure you guys get on the same page. So that way, moving forward, it's collaborative and you're not like just trying to white knuckle it, because that hasn't worked. So,
Yeah. Well, we're okay with you not being comfortable with self-promotion. We'll do the promo and
hey,
tell everybody,
I'll take
look,
all the help I can get.
go work with Lori, guys. She's awesome. Do it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Contact her. Yeah.
We're really good at self-promotion too.
Woo!
Lori, thanks for doing this. This has been such an awesome conversation.
Of course. Thank you
Yeah,
guys for doing it. As I tell my patients, I was like, information isn't helpful if you're the only one who knows it.
true.
Love. You've got all these one-liners. This is another one of the one-liner episodes. Okay, Lori, thank you so much for being on our show, you guys. We will see you next week. Bye.
Hear you. Hear you.
Bye.
Bye.